I'd like to call to order the monthly meeting of the Frankfort Plant Board. It's Tuesday, July 18th, 2023 at 5 o'clock. We're meeting in the community room at the Frankfort Plant Board. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Member DeLong?
Here.
Member Cuba?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Mitchell? Here.
We have a quorum. Next item is consider approving the minutes of the June 27, 2023 special board meeting, which was a special meeting that was held in lieu of the regular meeting. Everybody should have the minutes there. Do we have a motion on the minutes or any changes? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of adopting the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are adopted. And just a quick note, I think everybody's aware that the August meeting will be on August 22nd, not the regular meeting date, but on August 22nd. I think we've talked about it, but just to confirm, make sure everybody's got that on the calendar and for the public to know that the meeting will be on the 22nd that month. Next one, Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment?
No, sir.
Any other matters that came to us, web comments or anything?
No, I have not received any.
Okay. Next item, Vint.
Yes,
I don't
sir.
want to let the cat out of the bag, but this is last chance you're going to be the master of ceremonies on this.
This is it.
You can still come back as a guest, can't you? DJ or?
Come back and create havoc or something? No, no, good. All right. Yeah, we'll start with our Public Information Director, Kathy Lindsay, to give you the update on that department.
Really quick.
Goes a lot faster when you go up financials.
Good evening.
Goes a lot
I
faster when you
just
go up
have a
financials.
couple of things to talk about, things that are coming up. We are going to have our ribbon cutting for our community solar facility on Monday, July 24th at 11 a.m. This is a big deal because this is the first public solar facility here in Frankfort and Franklin County. So we're going to have the ribbon cutting up at the panels, and then following that we'll have a reception here in the community room. We have invited our city and county leadership as well as some KMUA, KYMEA. We're going to have a speaker to congratulate us. Secretary Rebecca Goodman from the Energy and Environment Cabinet will be here. I believe the KSU president is going to be here just to take part in the ceremony and congratulate us as well. Again, and the folks from Solar Energy Solutions will be here, and the mayor is on the agenda. So we have some people that will be here to congratulate us and to speak all the good things. So again, that's happening Monday at 11.
And the public's invited, right?
The public is invited. And we'll send a media advisory to the State Journal and some other media outlets around here. So.
And does Catherine and Jason know they might be asked to say something?
I have told them both,
Good.
and I figure when this is over, I'm going to corner everybody and get to the bottom of who's doing what.
But they're begging. They want to talk. They do. They
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Okay.
I refer to Catherine. You can represent the board.
Okay.
We're going to hold
Okay,
hot potato back and
we'll
forth.
work it out when this is over.
I'm happy to do that.
The other thing happening next week is the groundbreaking ceremony for the Ashwood Solar Facility, our large-scale facility that's in Lyon County. That's happening on Wednesday. And I do need to send a list to the folks at KYMEA of those people who are coming from FPB so that they're making name tags from everybody and want to make sure we're going to be required to have hard hats and safety glasses at that. So we just want to make sure that we have enough for everybody and who's going. And really, those are the things I wanted to talk about tonight because it's big things happening and we're very excited.
And the Franklin County Fair starts tonight.
And yeah, the rest of our Cable 10 crew is out at the fair. And well, they started over the weekend. They had the pageants over the weekend. Yeah. So big week in Frankfort.
I live in Indian Hill, so it's in the backyard. So you live it every night. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right. Next, we'll move to the Network Operations Center with the Director, Darren Rambo. And that report starts on page 31 in your board package.
Good evening. You'll notice from your report, excuse me, it looks like in June, the NOC handled 2,476 phone calls, so a pretty busy month. We had a couple of outages and other things. The locate staff did 669 locates, which is down a little bit from May. That closes out the fiscal year with 8,699 locates. So it's a pretty busy year, and you know it's just going to keep going. And I think that's it for the numbers. Anything I can answer for you guys?
Any questions for
Not.
here? Okay.
No, nothing?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next we'll do the customer service report, and Cassie and April are out, so David Denton's gonna do the customer service report for you.
Thanks, Vince. Yeah, April has a much-deserved vacation, and Cassie's dealing with a family medical situation, so I'll be covering everything customer service related. Looking at your board packet, we have your usual customer service reports on pages 33 through 37. You can see between our new accounts, portals, walk-ins, cashier transactions that our customer service team handled over 9,200 customer interactions for the month. If you recall, the board approved our new payment card processor, Paymentus. That implementation is moving through well and looking to start doing some testing and a soft launch of that in August. And our phone system conversion is doing well as well with IT testing that. So those things will help customer service ultimately and are moving forward well. Be glad to answer other questions you have for where we are through the month of June.
Any questions for David? Thank you, sir.
Okay, next we'll do the telecom report with Superintendent Adam Heller, and that is pages 39 through 42 in your board package.
Good afternoon. As Vince says, starts on page 39 with customer penetration. Everything looking good being the first month of this year. Outage report on page 40. We had 2 outages, one in the Evergreen area, Brookville, Carwell Lane, which was a bad trunk amp. We had another outage in Node 10, which is Centennial, that area, and that was a bad power supply. Trouble calls down for the month, so everything's going good there. Next band, we're completing the underground portion and Pine Hill subdivision. When we get done with that, we're gonna move it down to Ducker's Village. Construction of fiber beam placement on 421, and then there, after they finish that up, they're gonna move into Two Creeks and actually start putting some fiber in the conduits that were placed several months back. Splicing fiber over by Mr. Mason's residence to get him turned on as fast as we can. And that's a report. If there's any questions, I had one other thing. Is the end of the month we have 3 cable employees retiring. Ray Jean Wilson, who is our office supervisor, is retiring after 27 years. Wayne McDonald, our chief technician, he's retiring after 27 years. And Ben Yeary, he's a construction crew leader, who's retiring after 26 years. So we really appreciate what they've done for the plant board. That's all I got.
Any questions for Adam? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, next we'll do the electric report, and tonight the Assistant Electric Superintendent Russ Carter will give you that report, and that's pages 43 through 46 in your board package.
Thank you, Vin. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Board. Like Vin said, the electric portion, the operations begins on page 43 of your board package with our e-reliability numbers for the month of June. You can see our SAIDI numbers for the month there at 22.055 for the average customer interruption duration. Page 44 kind of details that. Some of those causes a little bit there with the chart. Page 45 lists those interruptions out with the causes, with a total of 50 customer interruption outage incidents for the month. Page 46 is going to detail that a little further with our 10 largest customer minutes of interruption for the month, with a total of 357 customers affected. And I'll be glad to entertain any questions you have.
Anybody any questions? Okay. No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll have Chief Electrical Engineer Travis McCullough to give us an update on AMI.
Good evening, everyone. As of this morning, the electric AMI installs are at 11,083 meters, and we are at 8,237 water meters. Kind of somewhat big news on the horizon. Census has upped our quarterly deliveries from 1,500 meters to 2,300, which is, good news. Again, broken record here, more is better, but things are looking good. We're steadily progressing along. Happy to answer any questions.
How many in the state? How many utilities have gone to AMI type?
Yeah, I think most of the munis and co-ops were kind of earlier adopters.
Mm-hmm.
Duke has had a system for a while. I think KU is still kind of in their early stages. I did hear that they're starting some of their AMI work in Franklin County where they border us in the county. But as far as percentage wise, I don't know
Yeah, I
the
just was
exact
curious,
number,
yeah.
but I think it's, like I said, I think most of the munis are kind of already there or similar places to us. Most of the co-ops, they started early. There used to be, I think they're probably still around, but they would put in a power line carrier system. So co-ops, you think they're really spread out. The business case was better for them to be early adopters. So a lot of the co-ops have had theirs for a while.
Any
Yeah, I
question
think-
for John?
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, most of the co-ops, I think, are on their second generation.
Yeah.
Okay.
AMI system.
Have we had much customer pushback in terms of people refusing the meters? I know we talked about that when we went through this in terms of people not wanting these meters or whatever, and, we put stuff in the tariff to opt out.
Right.
With a charge and all that. Is that, we found much of that or not?
It's a handful of customers. We've had a few opt out that have agreed to pay the fee. Slightly larger number than that. People just calling, asking questions. Say at first we want to opt out, so we call them back and we explain, the technology, how it benefits them, and a lot of people, agree to go ahead and have their meter changed. So it's a very small number. I think it's just a few that have completely opted out.
Thank you.
Any question?
Then on the community solar, I think Kathy shared the big news. We have a little bit of cleanup work, but the transformers cut in. We're tied to the grid. Got a little bit of cleanup work. They're doing their final system checkout, so I think by Monday we'll be ready to have a.
It's gonna
energized
work,
system.
right?
Yep.
Yep.
It's gonna be everything. You heard it here. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
So it doesn't that much showing up.
All right, next we'll do the SEPA report. That is on page 47 through 49 in your board package. You'll notice for the month of May that we cleared $117,464, and that makes $366,595 for the calendar year to date. And you will see on the next page that we are running just a little behind compared to the months last year, but again, as we've talked about a couple different times, the market price for energy is down, and so that kind of speaks to that. And then on page 49, you will see the running total of our SEPA throughout the life that we've had it. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have on that.
Can I ask you a totally unprepared off the question?
I'll make up the best.
Last night on Kentucky Tonight, they had an hour on talking about different energy and everything. And one of the things they talked about is where Kentucky historically has not been a good candidate for wind, that they're coming back with wind technology and building taller poles, which will be up higher to track, and that could open up Kentucky. Have you seen that, or?
I haven't seen those specific conversations, but yeah, I mean, if you can obviously get higher, they've talked about some of the eastern Kentucky mountain regions, but sometimes there's pushback on some of those things just due to the landscape. But
yeah.
if you get higher, you get up into the more of the wind
I
speed.
heard they usually call the 100-meter, that's the newer, much longer, then they can have a star speed lower, then make it more economic. And in the MISO, there's Indiana, there are many of the projects. I heard potentially part of Kentucky, like Owensboro, Henderson, that area, potentially can be a more wind project too. I just have some data I can share with you to call Terra 10, which is currently all the new current contract being signed in the east area and from MISO, PGM, all that. What's the solar wind contract recently being signed? I can share with you.
Yeah, and John, I've done a lot of research
Yeah.
in my career for Kentucky, and
Uh-huh.
there are definitely some spots that could work. Western Kentucky on the mountain ridges, as you were saying. But as Finn was saying, it's really the technology. As the technologies improve, as your ability to predict the wind improves, as your ability to kind of change with the wind, the economics get better.
Yeah.
But I would say overall, wind is a geometric power source, unlike the sun, which is more linear.
Yeah.
And so if you're in an area that even has 1 mile an hour faster. It's going to be geometrically more power produced. So out in the west is really
Yeah.
wind territory. But you're right, Ohio, Indiana, they have wind up there. But they also have a different topography where the wind blows different. So I'd say let's not get all excited about wind just yet.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something to keep an eye
Yeah.
on, especially as the blades get bigger. And maybe I've seen some technology of moving the some of the heavy equipment down to the ground so you can have lighter and taller wind turbines that cost a lot less. That could be a game changer
Yeah.
if it came about. But
And they spent a lot of time on this thing talking about nuclear. And
yeah.
that was interesting. The senator from Western Kentucky spent a lot of time talking about nuclear in Western Kentucky. So
Yeah. Well, I will note that when I was playing with the wind maps about 8 or 9 years ago, there is right in near Georgetown. That probably has one of the best wind speeds in Kentucky.
Really?
So near Toyota and
Yeah.
stuff. So if we were going to look at a spot, there
Mhm.
happens to be something in our backyard. But
Yeah.
I know that land is a premium. So,
Yes.
so but the other last thing I'll say on wind is it's cool. You can co-locate a lot of stuff with wind. Where solar, you blanket the ground. Wind, you can actually do farming operations around it. So
Yeah.
you can drop the footprint. And stuff in Texas, the farmers love it when the wind comes because they're making so much money from that little footprint on their farmland. It helps them keep the whole farm afloat. So, something to look at.
I hate to just hit you all cold, but I mean, they did a good show last night. They went through a lot of the options and.
There's a question you ask AMI. I just look at the EIA data from DOE. Currently, by 2021, which is 2 years early, 69% of a meter already AMI. The actual number based on their data is 111 million meter is already AMI, which is 69%.
Okay, there's no other questions on those particular items. I guess SEPA is the next item, and we'll let Gary give us an update. Not SEPA, KYMEA, I'm sorry.
I really don't have anything new since the meeting we have. They continue to have a more discussing for the future, what they plan to do. Definitely, we will, if we have a closed section, we talk more in detail.
Okay, next is the safety report with Safety Director John Lyons, and that is page 51 and 52 in your board report.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Like Vince stated, page 51 and 52 starts our safety report. Happy to report for the month of June, no OSHA recordables. We did sustain one minor vehicle accident. One of our telecoms bucket trucks actually struck a drive-through awning.
It struck a what?
Drive-through awning, sir.
A drive-through awning?
Drive-through awning. Went to the drive-through. No damage to our vehicle, minor cosmetic to the actual business. But, I'm happy to answer any questions, sir.
Anybody have any? It's kind of like that wall that jumped out,
They do. They
jump, yeah.
They do. You got to watch out for them. No, I'll be happy to answer any questions, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next we'll move to the Water Department, and we have the Distribution Superintendent Brian Bourne to give you the distribution report on pages 53 through 55 in your board package.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members. The water distribution monthly reports on pages 53 through 55. We installed 10 new services. We had 3 main breaks, 5 outages for the month. Besides the normal board report, our flushing program, we're about 70% complete on that, so hopefully get to the finish line soon on that. We got a couple new projects coming up, Copperleaf and Spring Hill Suites, a new hotel. The last thing I have is the paint contractor for Taylor Tot Tank. We're about 40% complete. The one thing they found, some of the roof beams inside are going to have to be replaced, so we'll probably have a change order on that coming. So other than that, the project's going well.
Is that a complex fix?
David, how many beams are up in the roof, did he say?
There's probably about half of them.
Need to be replaced.
It's hard to look at it until the paint's sandblasted off, but once the paint gets sandblasted off, you discover a lot more. Sometimes, when we took bids on the project, we actually went in at pricing for roof beam replacement, so we're confident we got good pricing for the change orders.
Yeah, so I'll get that taken care of, so. That's all I have. You guys got any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
And then next we'll do the water treatment plant report. The Superintendent Brandon Powers is off today, so Water Engineer Sherman Stadetta is going to give us that report.
Good evening. For the month of June, the water treatment plant treated 255,716,000 gallons of water per day for an for the month for an average daily production of 8.52 million gallons per day. Lot 4 averaged 1.58 cubic feet per second for an average of 1.02 billion gallons per day, and there was 7.1 inches of rainfall recorded in the watershed. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
For that amount of water that we used in June, how's that compare to a normal June?
Looking back, if on the department report, we're pretty much like last year was right on target. It was 8.52 this month. Last year it was 8.55, so we're pretty much right on the same. All right. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, that wraps up our departmental reports.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next one is the Gary's Inc. section of the agenda. If you look in front of you, we've got 4 items. First is review and accept the general manager evaluation for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. You should have that in front of you. And it's a public document that Gary had 7 criteria that he was evaluated on during the past year. Maximum on each criteria was a 5. He got an overall score of a 4.8. And also general comments, which are contained there, and the way we do it, just for the public, is each board member evaluates Gary independently. They send it in, the scores are totaled, and no changes are made, no one's called, no one sees each other's evaluations. The comments and everything are put down here, and that's how it's done. John and I sat down with Gary yesterday and went over it. At this point, no change has been made, but obviously if the board wants to make any changes in the evaluation at this point, it's not final until everybody agrees. But this is the compilation of everybody's evaluations that came in. So at this point, I'll either entertain a motion to accept the evaluation, or if anybody wants to make any changes. To approve? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Evaluation is adopted. I hope you like it, Gary, because you got it now, buddy. Next one is, per Gary's contract, any salary increase he gets is up to the board each year to decide after we do the evaluation. In the last several years, we've awarded Gary what the rest of the employees get. It's totally the board's discretion, whatever they want to submit. Like I said, the staff this year got a 5% across the board. It's not, like I said, it's discretionary what we give. Do we have a motion on a salary increase?
Approve the same 8% or 6% or 5%. Sorry, I've got state and approve the same 5% is given to line staff, FPB staff.
Okay, we have a motion for 5%. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next is the general manager's employment contract. You have that in front of you, and Hans has worked on this for some time, and he circulated to everybody. We've had no discussion together about this. It's been out there for everybody to look at. We've discussed it with Gary, but this is the point where we need to decide if we want to adopt this, make any changes. This contract, basically, I'll go through just a couple of highlights. Page 1, Gary's current contract ends next June. This contract would extend him to June 2028. Page 2 continues that his salary is what the board wants to award each year. Part C continues what we're currently doing, is Gary earns each year a retention incentive, which he is not paid for, and he only gets if he fulfills his contract. This continues that. At the bottom, number II, what this is divided is into Fund 1 and Fund 2, and what that simply is the money Gary has earned up to this point as retention. If we adopt this change, is locked in. He's earned that. It's there. He doesn't get it. He only gets it if he stays, but that part's there. Then Fund 2 is what he would earn in retention between July 1st of this year and 2028. So that's the difference in Fund 1 and Fund 2. Next page, page 3, tax consequences on Gary's retention. He gets that, if he fulfills his contract. This basically says Hans has talked to a tax attorney. A lot of the language in this contract we lifted from the president of the University of Kentucky's contract. We figured that was, and it was online, so we just used it. That Gary's responsible for his own tax advice. We're not giving him tax advice on how he handles any money he's earned at the end of his contract. On page 4 and 5, just to summarize it, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Hans, what we've got is, if we terminate Gary for cause, and cause is determined in here, other than Fund 1, he gets nothing. He's gone. If we terminate him for convenience, we just say, we just don't like you anymore, then we owe him the rest of his contract. Now, no other retention or anything, only what he would earn to date. But if he goes out and gets another job, then this contract provides that we can claw some of that back and say, if we fire you and we put you on the street, you got no money, we're going to pay you. But if you go out and get you a real nice job, we're going to take some of it back. So, and Gary understands that, right, Gary? Yes. I think that's the simplest way to put it. And that basically, if you go, that pretty much is the highlights of it. Hans, did I leave anything out?
No, sir, I think that's a good
Yeah.
summary.
I mean, that's a quick, but I mean, again, this is in front of us. Anybody wants to make any changes, amendments, deletions, I think everybody knew that they could submit those changes to Hans. He'd draft them. We could bring them up here. I have no idea if anybody's brought Hans anything or not. I mean, that's nobody's. Gary, you've seen it. Are you comfortable with the terms and conditions? So now for the board is, does anybody have any changes they want to make in it? Okay, if not, do we have a motion to accept the terms and conditions and enter into this contract with Gary?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. Gary, 2028, buddy.
Thank you, appreciate you.
You know where to go.
Thank you.
Last item is, part of the process is, we also have to adopt a criteria that we're going to evaluate Gary on for the upcoming year. And I want to mention, in the contract we just approved, in order for Gary to receive salary increases or any retention payments, he has to score an average of 4 every year on his evaluation. If he doesn't, then he gets nothing. So, but we also, there's an 11-point criteria that's on the last page of the evaluation, if everybody look at it. Again, these are items, I just went through agendas, picked out items we talked about. If anybody wants to delete any of these, add to, whatever, they're out there, if everybody could take a look at those. John and I reviewed these with Gary yesterday, and I think Gary, these were in agreement on these, but there's nothing locked in on these till we decide. So if anybody wants to add something, delete it, whatever, we can. Oh, is everybody okay with these criteria? And there's nothing magic. I mean, we could amend something mid-year if something else comes up or whatever, so. If not, all those in favor of adopting the fiscal year 20, I'm sorry. Okay. Right. We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Criteria is adopted. So, that brings us to item 4.5. Consider approving public hearing notice covering establishing rates for a new tier of next band and updating section X of tariff. Harvey. Kathy.
Harvey's not here, so I'm really feeling the pressure.
The weight of the whole department is on you.
That's right. We do ask, staff is requesting from the board that you approve a notice for a public hearing that would be set at our next board meeting, at 5 o'clock here for, what is it? The August meeting.
August 22nd.
Okay, it's different in my thing. August 22nd at 5 o'clock here. And the main reasons for this public hearing is that we want to consider the new speed for next band, including symmetrical upload and download speeds, changing some language in the tariff with our policy requiring customers that are in areas serviceable by next band that they use next band. This is an effort to help us move all of our folks over to the all fiber network as we look at retiring the HFC plant. The third thing is our Wi-Fi. We're going to change the way that we bill for our whole home Wi-Fi service, and this is really just cleaning up some language on the bill. We've worked with IT and customer service to just change some language in the tariff it's gonna look different on the bill, but it's gonna be clear as what people are getting charged for our customers. And if you have any questions, I think we've sent you all a memo about this.
Now, as I understand it, if you're currently not on Nextband,
Yeah.
and you're on the old system, we're not signing up anybody new for that, right?
No.
But if you're already on it,
Unless they want to.
Well,
unless it were,
Yeah.
but if they don't want to change, they still can keep what they have for
Yeah,
now, right?
we were grandfathering in everybody
Right.
that has it now.
Mhm.
But just, again, this is an effort as we're gonna be moving everybody over to fiber at some
Right.
point. If you don't have anything and you want to sign up, then you're gonna get Nextband.
So that activation fee is for new signers, new subscribers. And on this sheet, there the service activation fee.
Yeah, and that's not changed from where we are currently today.
Yeah, that's
So,
not a change.
So people moving from into next plan from what they're on now, they pay their extra, okay.
So I think for what you'll have, everything that's in red is what's being changed.
And then I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. What's happening is the shift to Nextband from Elite, if someone's on Elite and they move to Nextband, they actually be paying for residential exactly the same, but they'd be getting actually faster internet and faster download and upload, so.
Yes,
That's
yes.
awesome.
Uh-huh.
And then for business, they actually would be paying less if they move from Elite to Nextband.
Yes.
And once again, they begin faster, so, yeah, that's hard to say no to.
We're feeling pretty good about it. We'd like to have a public hearing to, tonight, you're not taking any action on that except setting the public hearing.
And whether we have a public hearing is up to Mr. Snyder, because he has to preside.
Oh, okay.
Well, you moved the meeting for me because I won't be here on the 15th, so I feel obligated to go ahead and if it's okay, I'll go ahead and make the motion to hold a public hearing for the proposed Nextband tariff changes on the next meeting on August 22nd.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We adopted it for a hearing. Thank you. Next one is Adam still here? Adam, could you come up? Yeah, give me one for Adam. This is an official work paper. The reason for this discussion is, as some of y'all may realize, the federal government's awarded an extra $1.1 billion to Kentucky for fiber. And as we understand it, in August, they're going to begin design kind of the overall high-level planning.
They're supposed to start working on a roadmap that they have to fill out to be able to get the BEAD money by the first of the year.
And then, from what you understand,
the way I understand that is after they come up with their program, they submit it. Once they submit it, they have another year for a final commitment. But with the first commitment, they can get up to $200 million.
Okay.
And they got another 12 months to finalize that program to draw the other $900 million.
So the first time the bulk of that new money will flow would be next fall.
Right.
Likely. So what the purpose of this was, and I've talked to Adam Gary just a little bit, was our original grant was $16 million. And two things happened. Once, after we applied, we got hit with basically 40% inflation, which drove our cost up. And the new grants that came out after that first round went from a 50% to a 60% match. This is just something, as you can tell, this is absolutely a work paper since it's written on LegalPad, that I was trying to come up with a way that, do we want to communicate to the State Office of Broadband, State Budget Director, that if possible, if they could do some type of carve-out of the new money in their planning, that, I mean, I'd love for us to get 100% of what we think the cost is going to be. I don't know if that's feasible. But it seems like we have a plausible argument that if inflation is 40%, the match rate has changed, that if we took that amount, applied 40% to the original grant, would take us to about 22.4, and at a 60% match, it would give us about an extra 5.4 million that we would ask, that we wouldn't have to put a match up for, because we were the test guinea pigs for that first round. Everybody else had the benefit of seeing the inflation, the higher rates.
And we're being punished for it.
Right. And I last night, very appropriately, late in the evening, I texted Adam and said, "What's 5.4 million get you?" So Adam said, "Well, roughly, maybe this number." And so that's roughly the 400. I think you saw it could go anywhere from 300 to 460.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, because once you get out of the areas that we have today, those were the ones with the most dense. So when you get outside that, they're farther apart, so it'll cost more money to build to them. So that's why there's such a range.
So the reason I asked this to be on the agenda was, does the board want to send some communication to the state and saying, when you're planning this in August and thinking about how you're going to allocate these funds, would you give some consideration to some type of carve out for that first round of grants, that you might be able to give us some help along with the other cities who were in that first group? There's nothing, as you can tell, there's nothing in stone about this. It's very much not in stone. But I think if we're going to communicate, and they're starting to work in August, we're going to have to communicate something to them if we want to. And we don't have to do anything. We just wait and see what the rules are. But I think they're already probably at least 200 million or more is almost already spoken for.
Yeah, right now they had a I think it was $274 million shortfall for round 2 grants. So I would think that the first 200 million of the BEAD money would probably go to fulfill that second round shortage. I could be wrong, it's not my shop, but it just kind of makes sense.
Do you think that any of the other cities would join us in the letter?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done anything on that just because we really want to see what the board thought in terms of, do we even want to kind of throw our hat in the ring and say, you know, could you give us, I mean, we can still make, and I think everybody was interested in us, you know, making our case during the 2024 General Assembly, but they're actually starting to write the rules now. And probably the sooner we communicate something, I mean, I think you're exactly right, though. We need to communicate with those other cities saying, we're going to go in and try to get something else. Do you want to join with us or have any ideas? So it's whatever the board's pleasure is on how to proceed, but it's just 1.1 billion, and it sounds like a lot of money, but I think, Gary, your feeling was it'll go fast once they start awarding next year.
It's very hard to say.
No.
I mean, it's going to take time. I agree with that. It's take time. Eventually, the state can lay out the plan, how much that will be.
Is there any downside to doing this?
No, I don't think so. I mean, basically what we're asking is, let us follow the same rules as the round 2. And there were 60 and 70% match in certain areas, and we would ask that our areas that fall under those conditions, that we got the similar match that the round 2 did, since we were first and really missed out on some of that money.
And everybody else did get the benefit in preparing their application of seeing the inflation.
Yeah.
They saw what happened to us, and they had the benefit of upping their request.
Yeah. I do want to just say something publicly, so
Sure.
we're all on the record here. Adam, I'm doing some quick math, and I'm not a human calculator. So, how much, if you have 5,460 homes, how many per home hookup does that work out to?
That's the range. That's where he getting the number. It's like anywhere from, I forgot what I said, 360 or 260 to 400. It depends on the areas we pick.
But if it was 460 homes and 5 million, my math works out to per home.
It was 18 million, I think, was the high end, or 18,000. I'm sorry, per home. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
There you go. That's what I was thinking. And I just want to make the point that as a board, we've worked really hard to do 100% comprehensive coverage. That's why we've worked so hard for these grants and this leverage and this support. But we're definitely the high-hanging fruit now.
Right.
And I want people to understand that we want to try to get to everybody. But it also, this is why we need this money, is because it does not make business sense.
No.
But with the support and with this One-Time Infrastructure Act, Inflation Act, this is a great opportunity.
It's what this was designed to do.
Exactly.
And the other thing, which we hadn't talked about, but it's a reality of it, is it's the take rate.
Yeah.
You know, the higher the take rate makes our money go further because it will generate revenue to put back in the system.
Yeah.
But if we stay around the 50% take rate, it hurts. I mean,
Well, and
we're
I think
pulling a
that's
lot of
why,
cable with no revenue.
that's why I want to take this moment and talk
Yeah.
to the public. We are trying hard on our end to give
Yeah.
you this. It's great. It's amazing. I just got mine. Please take advantage of it because this is a lot of money.
You know, I don't see a real downside to this. I mean, you know, if we don't ask, we know the answer is gonna be no.
Right.
The answer maybe will be no anyway. I do think, you know, it was a really good idea to talk to especially to some of the other municipals and some of the other municipal providers that, and if we can band together and, you know, when that pressure comes, you know, if you have not just us, but, you know, I don't know, I'm just throwing names out, Bowling Green or whoever else took advantage of this first round, it puts us in a position to where that ask gets strengthened. So, you know,
So I guess if we're interested, the motion would be to direct Adam and Gary to prepare a letter to submit to the state saying the board's discussed it when, like, in your process to design the distribution of the new funds, to consider an approach similar to this. I mean, there's nothing magic about any of these numbers. It's just, you kind of got to start somewhere. And this seemed to be 60%, I think we can make a case for. The inflation rate's documented, so we're not just making up numbers. I mean, now I'd love to get us to 34 million, but I can't make the number work like that, so.
Well, would we, after we look at the draft letter, would we then approach the cities to see, would you like to sign off on this?
Yeah, I mean, we could go on, Gary and Adam could go on and contact them now and say, we're preparing to send correspondence. Are you all interested in joining with us on the letter, sending a similar letter?
Can we put in a motion that we can communicate to the other cities?
Sure.
What we're doing?
sure.
So do we have a motion?
So move.
What? Did we have a motion? I think I just threw out the idea.
So the motion is to communicate with the state about the new money and to also communicate with the other
Similarly
municipals.
situated cities,
That
yeah.
are in this- that what our action is gonna be, if they want to join.
And directing staff,
Directing staff to do that,
draft a letter.
or directing staff to draft that.
We have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Adam,
All right,
thanks.
thank you.
And thanks for answering my email last night. Item 4.7, consider approving budget amendment 2024-01 to add $21,000 for lawn and landscaping maintenance for the admin building. As I understand, this item was in the budget and then it accidentally got deleted. So this was an item this isn't a new item,
It's not a new item.
Right.
Last year, it had appeared in the budget twice. So I requested for one of the line items to be removed, and they both got removed.
okay.
So,
Official work by the budget state.
So, any questions with Leanne about this? Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank
Motion
you.
approved, thank you. Next item is, you remember last meeting on the budget, Steve talked about the possibility of, after the year end, of any money that was left over in the Bluegrass Community Actions weatherization, rather than lapsing it, that it would be, in essence, carried forward and added to the new appropriation we had this year, which was $40,000. So this would bring it to roughly, what, $60,784, Travis?
Yes, sir. I think you covered it. We spent $19,126,000 last year. So that left us an additional $20,874 to add to our $40,000. So before you this evening is a budget amendment, and there's an additional amendment to the contract. That $40,000 was called out in the contract as well. So I wanted to go ahead and get that corrected too. Other kind of informational item, the fans have been purchased and delivered, so that's been taken care of as well. So happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend we amend the FY24 electric budget to include the amount of $60,874 for weatherization services, and therefore bring back the unused money from the previous fiscal year.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's amended. Thank you, sir.
Well, actually, you need a separate one on that was just a budget amendment. You need a contract, approval of the contract.
Do we need approval on the contract? It won't hurt.
I just did a budget.
We did it in one item on the package, but I don't know, do we need to?
Answer, are we good with what we just did, or?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the, make a motion to amend the contract, with, Bluegrass Community Action to reflect the budgetary change just approved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item 4.9, consider approving amendment to FPB's job classification and compensation plan. Nichelle?
Good evening, Board Chair and members of the Board. Staff asked the Board to consider approving the creation of the Director of Electric position. The Director of Electric will coordinate activities of two departments within FPB's Electric Division, the Electric Department and the Electric Engineering Department. The Director of Electric will coordinate activities, based on the evaluation of the job. The classification of the Director of Electric is a grade 122, with a starting salary of $108,000, $430.40, and will report to the Chief Operating Officer. In addition, staff asked the Board to consider approving the reclassification of 9 positions: Admin Assistant 1 and 2, Support Services Director, Heavy Truck and Equipment, the series, so 1, 2, 3, and 4 positions, Fleet Maintenance Supervisor, and reclassify and title change for the Telecom Engineer Technician Supervisor to Telecommunication Engineer Technician Manager. Effective date July 1st, based on a compensation review. Funds are available in the 23-24 budget to support the creation of the Director of Electric and grade reclassifications. The proposed job descriptions are included starting on page 65 of the details pages in the board item. Does the board have any questions?
Any questions, Chef Steve?
The Director of Electric,
Yes. Yes.
education, high school only, wouldn't it be a college or engineering degree?
We reviewed, and just based on what staff wanted, that's what we came up with.
Well, for me, that is not the education requirement, in my opinion, for the Director of Electric or utility firm, company.
Would you like for us?
You know, Mr. Chairman, if I
Sure.
might,
Yes.
I tend to agree. I think, I don't know if they need to be an engineer, a licensed engineer or not. Whether that's the case or not, I don't know. But I think that this is too much of a management position and I realize there may be somebody who's got a lot of experience, but I just don't think you're ever gonna end up hiring anybody for that job that doesn't have a college degree. I have a hard time seeing it happen, so, I tend to agree with Steve on this one.
So you would like to see it with an actual degree instead of substitute years of experience?
I would,
yeah.
At a minimum, a college degree.
Okay.
It doesn't even, well, the way it's written now, it's not written as a substitute.
Yeah.
So I guess that, well,
Yeah.
you answer the question. Even if we put in the correct language to reflect substitute, you all are saying you think.
I'm just thinking of the things that we've talked about over the last year that I totally didn't understand, engineering, energy-wise, and that person, while may not be the policy person per se, is gonna be part of the implementation of whatever that happens with electric, as it relates to us purchasing, buying, whatever, all those, they're in on those decisions.
Right,
And
correct. Okay.
To me, as a minimum,
Do you think there ought to be a requirement of a college degree or a degree in engineering?
I'll leave it up to you. I'd say at least a college degree. I would prefer an engineer.
Yeah, I would too. I would too, quite honestly.
Okay.
I don't know. I have a different take on it.
Okay.
I think that if you can also have a vocational approach with this, you have people who go and come up through a vocational route. I also I think on-the-job training, I mean, if you had someone come out of high school, they start with the plant board, they put in 10 years, they were smart, they were savvy, they were bouncing all over the place, they were learning everything they could, I easily think they could get a lot more from that than they're ever going to get from an engineering degree, a general engineering degree that may only have a small focus on what they just learned for 10 years. So I think an equivalent would be good. But also I trust our staff. If they're hiring the person, interviewing the people, as long as they're not only have one candidate and they go, well, we've only got this one option, we just got to go with it. I think there could be a lot of different routes to this position. I do think that a college education can teach some analytical and it can open you up to other concepts of finance and money, but that doesn't mean a college student will pursue those electives and stuff like that. So I think it's a lot more about the individual and how they decide to self-educate themselves for a position. So I'd look to our staff to be able to interview that person and be able to evaluate, do they have the necessary qualifications and skills experience for the job. So I'd hate to put in a minimum that cancels out a totally qualified candidate.
I just say, if you look at any other organization, I mean, that's the cold hard fact. And when people are promoted, when people are hired in positions, it may not be right, you're right, there are gonna be exceptions to do that.
Yeah.
But you're talking about, in today's world,
Yeah.
that someone starts 10, 15 years in the organization, works himself up, never sees the outside world to know what's out there.
Yeah.
So, college degree person should have access to
Yeah.
some of that and brings it in, so.
How go ahead, Catherine.
Could, maybe you can expound a little bit on, if we, added in vocational, like, what would the correct terminology be if that's the route they came up? Because I like that idea.
Well, and I'm not an expert on the vocational side. I've been in and around it. I guess one more time I'll just make a context for what I'm saying, then we can lean into what you're saying. Is as an energy consultant, it is a wacky world. You meet someone and you start talking about their background, and they can have a liberal arts background, they can have economics background, they can have philosophy, they can have a social science. It's funny who ends up in this weird little energy world. I mean, I think you guys have seen that too. And so I would be hard pressed to say, well, I'm not an engineer. I end up working with a lot of engineers and doing. I have an architecture planning background, and people look at me and they're like, oh, well, those bring some different skill sets, but I'm a certified energy manager, but not an engineer. So some people might say that disqualifies me from doing what I do, but I definitely know what I do and I know how to do it. And I work with a lot of engineers who I can bring in to do stuff to complement when it gets too technical. So I would say the energy world itself brings in a lot of different disciplines from a lot of different worlds and a lot of different life experience. On the vocational route, I know there's people who can go and do 2-year, at Bluegrass Community College and stuff and get, I think lineman work, and I think even plant manager work, you can get, is that right? You can get some different certifications in that. So if it's good enough to run a plant, or manage a utility plant or do all that, I could imagine that they could fit this job. So I do like the equivalent idea for sure. Like if you can have 8 years of equivalent work experience, that could be offset by a 4-year degree, a 5-year degree, or that maybe gets there. But I would just hate to limit or tie our hands for a really qualified candidate, especially in this job market. Have you guys been to the restaurants lately? And they're all understaffed. It's amazing what almost 100% employment looks like. So that's my only point. I definitely respect what you're saying.
I understand your point. I mean, I respectfully still disagree, but I do understand what you're saying.
Sure, and I mean, trust me, I have tons of degrees, and I really believe in college and education. I just think there's a lot of different routes to a position like this. So.
Can I make one point, kind of give you the history of kind of how the positions are that way? The director of water position is written the same way. There's no college degree required. The only thing I would remind the board on is if you make an engineering or college degree type requirement, the only person in the company that's going to be qualified for these 2 jobs will be your chief electric engineer for this one and your chief water engineer for that one. So your electric and water superintendents, no matter how much experience they have, if you change that, for the water, your water treatment plant superintendent, none of those folks would have the opportunity to apply. So it would always be your engineer or somebody outside. So that was the mindset behind why the water director was written that way. And then this one was kind of copied from that, is my understanding. Just Not telling you what to do, I'm just saying, that's kind of the mindset behind it.
And I guess that's where my brain was going. I'd rather hire internally to someone who knows the system, knows all the people, knows the culture, rather than be forced to go outside just because of a degree.
What's the difference in duties between the chief electric engineer and the director of electric? How do they interact? Who's over who?
The director of electrical or director of water is overall the section in the electrical or water. So like water have a 3 section, they report to the director. But currently director actually is not a standalone job. Currently David Billing is the chief water engineer, same time is the director of water.
Let me just ask this, and maybe a question of you, Hans. Like in law, a non-attorney cannot supervise an attorney, correct?
That's correct.
Can a non-engineer supervise an engineer?
That's a question I'm not.
I mean, just from a legal liability organization, I don't know the answer. I mean, can they? I know in law it can't.
I'd have to look at it, but like I say, it makes sense that you're just into a lawyer. You would, it'd be hard to, if you're, you got your upper level folks are usually attorneys in a law firm. Now in engineering firms, I'm not sure what the ethical that rule comes from the ethics requirements in in the legal business, but the engineering side of things, I'm not sure what the ethical constructs are there. I don't know, like CPAs, I'm not sure either what those kind of rules require. Whether you could have a CEO of an accounting firm that wasn't a CPA, say. So
I don't think it's the CEO of an accounting firm who wasn't a CPA could sign off on the final audits, could they?
So that's what I don't.
Yeah.
What I have to look at. So.
I think engineering might be a little different because architecture firms can hire engineers to work under them, and I think it. I mean, Ben might correct me on this. I think it has to do with the PE stamp and who's actually taking liability. So whoever stamps something, ultimately they take liability for that. So even if you have someone hiring the firm, that PE would be the one ultimately liable. The firm might still have liability, but I think that's the way. Ben, is that your understanding?
I mean, we've got 12 actions here altogether.
Yeah.
We can either go through and deal with them one by one, vote them as a block, or vote a block with recommended changes if there are any changes. So the first question is, how's the board want to proceed? Because we got 11 more to talk about. Do we want to act each individually or take it at the end?
A general statement. I thought we did a 5% last time, and we were going to consider class changes, grade changes at a later date. I'm still of that mindset. When you look at a few of these in here, they can translate into 25% pay raises. And that's not an abnormality here in this organization, those type of increases. So I'm not ready to add on top of those that are already there another few like that. That kind of pay raise is not sustainable financially with this organization. It is right now, but that's not going to be in the future like that. I don't think. Things get higher, cost more, liability is more. That crunch will come. So I really don't want to consider any of the grade changes because we said that at the last meeting that we would consider grade changes at another date.
Nichelle, of the 12 we have in front of us, how many of these, which ones are grade changes?
All the other ones are grade changes.
All of them. All of them that's in the chart.
All of them are.
Except for the first one's an establishment, correct?
Yes, so all of them that's in the chart are the grade changes, and then the director of electric is a created position.
I want to kind of back up on what Steve said just a little bit. If you look at some of these down through the line, if you look at the date revised on some of these, if we revise them on July 1st, some of these we revised in March of 22. Some of them we did in one I'm looking at just off the top. We revised it in March of 22, January of 20, and then all the way back to November 2013. I just think I'm a little bothered by the fact that we're re-upping these classifications really, really quickly, and it's almost like we're not given, and I realize, and I don't know if the, you know, the job market now is one where, you know, I just don't know if we're getting a lot of kind of false positives on stuff that needs to be changed, and we've kind of been through a little bit of an anomaly recently with wages going up. I don't know if how sustainable that's gonna be. I kind of tend to agree with Steve a little bit on this. I feel real weird saying it. You know, when I hold back on, because I just don't, you know, adjusting pay grades on one job 3 times in 5 years, just, I'm not really sure. So that's all I got.
Where are you finding the date?
If you look
Okay,
at
adjustments.
the very first thing, underneath, it's got the date revised. If you look back on some of these heavy equipment stuff toward the end, if you look on page 90, look on page 93, for example, the date revised on that job description, that date revised down there, the very last thing off the header, right before the general description.
And then if I can say for the heavy truck, some of the revisions were the certifications, either when they were trying to recruit, the certifications may have been too hard. So and to help with the recruitment, he may have removed them. So it didn't always result in a right, correct.
Okay.
Do we
And
know,
I would have
we
to
delineate that, so
Yeah.
we would know that?
Yes, I would have to get the records. I wouldn't be able to tell you today. And then also, I just also wanted to mention, Mr. Mason, I do understand you said the 25%, but the process that we do is throughout the year, I do have directors asking if they can have different jobs reevaluated. And so the process is to ask them to wait until the next upcoming budget. So then we review and we make the changes at budget time. So the timing just backs up with usually when we are going to receive a cost of living.
But the timing happens every fiscal year. For years, I don't know what it is, 41% pay raise over the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one, 37% pay raise over the last 3 years. 55% over the last. You're right. It happens every day. I don't know how you sustain that rate of pay increase. I'm just, you know, it just seems.
But as the market, or like I said, we evaluate based on difficulties of either, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go on, I'll say that.
Okay, I was just gonna say, like the heavy truck, right now we do have a position open, and let me look at my notes. We had 5 applicants. Well, we had a total of 17 applicants. 12 weren't considered. We had 5 I think 3 that we interviewed, and we had 1 to decline, 1 no-show. So just based on when we lost a person, one of the individuals for their exit interview, they left because of pay. We had an individual that we had hired, he left because of pay, he came back and then left again because of pay. So when we look at situations like that, that prompts me to say, okay, well, let me see what the market looks like. And then I work with the consultant and, you know, to get the information to see if we are in line with the market. And especially if we are having difficulties hiring, again, that's what prompts me to say we need to look at this position.
So does a consultant consider the market in which you reside?
Yes.
For instance, because, you know, I'm not gonna name the title, but it's a position that's in every state office building, 38% pay raise over the last 3 years. So are we going out and trying to recruit the people from the markets? Because there's a lot of qualified, educated people working for state government, city government, county government, university. There's a market of people, and I'm sure they're willing to move if the pay is right.
But for this position, we most definitely, and when I say this position, I mean the heavy truck, we're competing with the local dealerships where they get paid per vehicle. it's a different type of pay structure or pay model. And so it's hard to get those individuals because they can do 10 vehicles a day and make more than, our employees here just because of that pay structure.
So those are the ones that work on, is that the person that works on the truck?
Yes, the heavy truck and equipment
So
technician, yes.
what is-
So there are mechanics.
So what, have y'all explored what it would cost to contract that out?
No.
Because pension costs along with that, it might be something worth looking at.
I wanted to make one point of clarification.
Sure.
One of these positions on there had duties added to it, so that was the reason.
That's the other point that I was gonna make is, there, I've never seen a job yet that when you started, I said this to you before, that you didn't get added duties. Now, they are 40% more workload, but I've never seen a job that people didn't get another, added duties put on them and said, just do it,
In this position, in this particular position, it was due to AMI, the addition of AMI,
Yeah.
in addition to this problem.
But the AMI was to implement, to install and implement it. So that was a temporary recurrence.
No. So with the,
They'll be doing the reports there.
It's an additional job.
But
so with the elimination of the meter reading area, the water and the electric absorb some of the duties from the meter reading
But
area.
the reports from generated from the system.
Yes. But they also.
That's the extra duties though.
Well, they have to go and look at all those reports, and then they've got to initiate service orders and make sure we got rereads or they go out. It's put quite a bit more on those two, like.
Well, again, I'm not tying it to one job. I'm just saying in general, I've never seen a job given to anybody, certainly not to myself, that somewhere down the road, other duties were added to it and said, that's your job.
So based on me reaching out to the department head, they stated that daily reports for all of the routes read the previous day. So that's one of their duties. Typically, there are 6 or more routes per day that they have to do reports for, and the average time is around 4 hours a day. So they have to do high and low readings, trouble codes, inactive use, rereads. So that has increased their job duties in addition to what they were regularly doing.
Is this actually adding hours to their day?
Or job duties deleted.
You said, are they having job? I will have to. Russ, are you able to assist me with that as far as?
Yes, I guess, what was the questions are?
Were any job duties, we added duties, but were any duties taken away?
No, sir. No, all, they're, the 2 employees in question on as far as the AMI reports are continuing to do their current job plus the added duties.
And is this causing longer work hours?
Yes, it has caused them to work through some breaks and stuff, but, they're shuffling their schedule around to where that they're getting all the workload done. It just has put a lot more, probably, I would say, stress on them to stay really productive, to make sure that they're getting everything accomplished. And all of this stuff is currently done by the meter reading department. We transferred this responsibility over early in the process so we could get used to it. They've been doing the job now for a year or so anyway, with no extra compensation. But this is, in my opinion, I think this is something that's desperately needed for these 2 positions. But
Steve, I was wondering, are there some of these changes that are so minor that we could just sort of maybe separate them out, and then a few of the larger ones?
I don't have any particular problem with any particular thing.
Okay.
It's the general overall theme of what
I
we're
got you.
doing.
Yeah.
If you look, I sent y'all the sheet the last time.
Yeah.
If you look at those grades of the last 3 years, they move, they below midpoint, they get a midpoint raise in next budget, and they get the cost of living rate. Every one of those have materialized in plus 20% pay raises.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is, let's stop and take a look at that. It may come back after we look at it. But just to get it today and do this without
Do you want to do a special meeting where we just take an hour and just talk about this one? I'd be up for that.
Well, we've got money in the budget, we had asked, to take a look at not redoing the system, but looking at our compensation classification system, and do we need to make changes? Roughly, Michelle, how many classifications do we have total?
I mean, overall in our.
Different
job duties.
Different job descriptions, yeah.
Maybe like 80, 75, 80 maybe.
So we got 200 employees and we got 80 different job descriptions.
Well, while she's looking, okay, so what's the status of a different consultant looking at this and advising us? Is that in the works?
Have we put anything out yet?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
To get a consultant to give us like a high-level overview and recommend if we need to make any changes, keep our current system, go to a new system, whatever. And we put the money in the budget to do it. Have we gone out and started the process to pick somebody?
No. So do you just want a new study, or do you want someone to review the study that we have?
I mean, what I've always had in mind, going back to last year, was somebody come in and say, here's the way your current system's designed. Now, for a company that's running water, electric, cable, administrative functions, all the various things we do, is that the best system to be competitive in the market, or do we need to have a new system? I think, to go the next step, this is just me, to go the next step and start evaluating everybody and putting them in slots is premature, because they may come back and say, yeah, your current system's not perfect, but it's basically what people are using, and it's the one that makes sense for you. Or they could say, if you want to do it different, here's the changes, here's how you might tweak it. Then the board can decide, okay, now we need to go through the process of looking at everybody and deciding what kind of classification. Maybe we got 210 employees. Maybe we need 150 classifications. Maybe we need 50. I don't know. I don't have a feel for that. I know, much like state government, our system, like Steve said, goes horizontal and vertical. As your duties, responsibilities, whatever increases, you go down vertically, and as your tenure changes, you go out horizontally. And, state government has the same system, like administrative specialist 1, 2, 3, 4, chief, or principal, which are all kind of, usually the consultants come in and say those are career paths to allow people to take on some additional duty or some additional experience to move down vertically, but not necessarily horizontally. So, we're in a unique situation. We've got some jobs, like Steve said, look exactly like state government, county government, whatever. Lexington, Fayette government, City of Louisville government, whatever. We have other jobs which are unique to us, that we are competing for people from the private sector and competing with non-government entities to hire people. And that's a tough market. So we're trying to do both. And that's what I was hoping some type of review would give us is the current system we have the type of system we need?
Okay.
Not going in and looking at everybody's thing and saying, okay, you need to be a grade 15, this is where we're going to put you. I don't think we're ready to make that kind of detail the thing. And if they come back and say, your system is as good as it's good, this is what you ought to be doing, the way you're operating it, then so be it. I don't know. I turn it over to you all.
I kind of like it, I kind of like it a little bit almost to when David Denton comes and talks to us about audit firms, about, we like to try to get a new audit firm every 5 years. So, do we want to deal with someone to help us with this? Do we want to have a fresh set of eyes look at this? In my view, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think we need to, but I think we do need to hone in on the fact that we do, we do compete with folks in Lexington and Louisville and other, state government, those sorts of things. I don't know. I don't know what the pleasure of the board is. I don't understand.
Well, let me clarify the job, the job that I was talking about is that deal with state government that are relatively the same type of, the administrative, some of those. I know we have a unique job here that we have to compete for. I've always been for that, and you know, the lineman was one that I've never have said a thing against giving those guys, those women, raise those specialized positions. But there's some here, when you look at the way our pay has gone, you couldn't look at that 3-year sheet I gave you and tell who was a lineman, who was a job in demand, who a job that wasn't in demand, because the rates are all the same. The increases are all the same. And that's what I'm talking about, that everybody is it's almost like when a creek rises, everybody rises. And I'm not sure if that's realistic and financially sustainable.
Jason?
I think we're circling around. I mean, I don't think reinventing the wheel, you know, just like throw out, start over. I don't think that makes sense. I don't think a second pair of eyes hurts at all, especially from a different perspective. I like your kind of relationship to the audit, just someone coming in with a different perspective who might be seeing the market different. Maybe a high-level review of how we're doing stuff and a quick report, you know, a couple-week turnaround that we could sit down and have a special meeting. They could present to us. We could talk it out. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Obviously, Steve, I think what you're saying is you just keep seeing the water rising and you're not sure when it's going to stop.
Well, it will stop because, you know, depends on if the money stops first.
Yeah, but I think this might be partly just for our education and our understanding, but also just for a chance to take a step back and take a breath and just relook at everything, but at a high level and a review, not a rebuilding of anything. And unless they come in and they're like, hey, look, we did this for 10 other munis recently. This is absolute the cutting edge way to do it. You guys should, and then you're like, wow, yeah, this is amazing. We should look at that. So we definitely look at staff to see how they responded to feedback, and if it made sense, maybe we go forward with changing some stuff. But I think Steve's just asking us, let's take a little sanity break. Let's take a step back. Let's take a breath. Get a second opinion. And once again, I know almost nothing about this. I'm learning here, and that might be the problem. This is really complex stuff, and I'm trying to get my head wrapped around it. So, having even just a special meeting where we just talk about this stuff would be good.
Do we have a motion?
Oh, Catherine.
Catherine, you got.
And maybe this is also what you're saying, but and I think the more information we have, the specific ones that were brought before us. You know, if the revised date isn't really telling us, you know, about pay change.
Okay.
And or if it's a, you know, a position where, you know, part of the emphasis is because it's not equivalent grade level to someone else with the same similar title within.
Okay.
More information about that.
Okay.
Is there a reason? You can have the same title, but not have the same, you know, level of duties, you know, and just so we can see better justification, just to make it a little more obvious to us, because we don't really have that much insight.
Okay.
And one other thing, I'm just throwing this out there, but I think we've run into this before. So if you have a job opening and you have, for instance, 17 applicants, and we throw out 12 of them, you know, it would be, I don't know if we need to look at, you know, is it because they literally didn't meet the minimum qualifications, or I think we keep running into this, that we get so narrowed down we only have a few to even consider at that point.
So it could,
you raise a good point. The next thing we're going to talk about, similar in that customer service rep. You know, we started out, we used to have, correct me if I'm wrong, we used to advertise it and have a pool like of 200 to pick from. The last time we put out, we had a pool, what, David, of 70?
Yes, sir.
And only 10 made the cut to even be looked at. That was before the background check, drug, I mean, that was just the cut on qualifications. Only 10 made it. And we talked about it, and it doesn't look like it's the qualification that's killing us. I mean, it doesn't look like that. Did you think, David? I mean, I don't think that's that stringent. That for only eight or 10 to even get to that point, we're looking for people that had some customer service experience, and primarily what we were getting was people that didn't even have that. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. I think HR works it down to those
Yeah.
those that are required, that meet the job requirements, and then goes from there.
So, I mean, is it our job requirements that are hurting us? Is it just the market, just the workforce pool is, causing it? And does wages impact that, or is it just, that's just the market and people aren't, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I mean, like Jason said, you go around and you see everybody advertising for positions and employment, and I don't know. It's a strange workforce market right now.
When you say customer service, I know one of the things that we do try to review or give preference to is front-facing applicants. Unfortunately, just because you have customer service experience, our customer service deals, with our customer front-facing. So we do look for that. We give preferred preference to individuals for that. It could also, when you said how do we narrow down the pot, if you don't complete your application, I mean, we clearly state, please, don't fill out the application, don't just add a resume. So we have a lot of people that don't complete their application. And honestly, I don't know what the numbers are and who did what for this position. I can most definitely find that out. But it could be several different things.
Well, and did you also say of the 3 that you finally looked at, 1 or 2 didn't even show up? Like it was the finalists basically?
Yes, and that was again for the heavy truck. Yeah, it was 1 no-show, and then we offered to 1 individual and they declined. And with that situation, his employer increased his pay to stay. So those are the type of things that we do run into.
And I think I asked you, and I was kind of surprised, how many over the last year people that you had to appoint in range? Meaning they wouldn't come for the entry salary, and you had to ask Gary to appoint him in range, up to the midpoint, and it wasn't that large of a number, was it?
No, I think, and even, I honestly don't remember that number. It wasn't large though.
Yeah.
And even when we did, I think we had a candidate that still said no, they refused, they declined the offer as well.
I just think that we're in the weirdest labor market maybe of our life. I mean, everybody talks about 100% employment. This is maybe what it looks like. It's tough. Michelle, thank you. Please don't consider any of this criticism. We understand the amazing work you do. It's just, I think Steve is feeling uncomfortable, and that's good. I mean, it's good that I'm glad you're speaking this, and I fully support us doing a special meeting around this. I fully support us getting some second pair of eyes, just from outside, completely different perspective, and then let's sit down and have a full conversation about this.
And I think we belong to SRAM, right? The Society of Human Resource Professionals.
Yes.
And I don't know that the board's got any preference whatsoever. I mean, there's hundreds of members of SRAM, I guess. And I mean, I'm sure there's good people out there. I mean, I know there's some big firms, but I'm sure there's some smaller shops too. I mean, I know the organization. I don't know their resources. I mean.
Okay.
I guess the question I have is there any urgency to, before the special meeting, establishing the new position?
The director of electric.
Can that wait until if you feel like that's more urgent,
I
that's
certainly hope you would do, but because right now the people report when, and he's gone August 1st before that.
I have no problem voting on that separately. I mean, if we can come to what everybody's comfortable with.
So why don't we do this? If it's okay with everybody else, can I go ahead? Did you accept the motion to accept? And I'm gonna throw the other question out here too, based on what Steve said. I'm gonna ask this if anybody wants it. Do we want to amend the education requirement to keep what we've got right there and add on a college degree with maybe slightly less experience?
That substitutes on a year-for-year basis.
That substitutes, like 5 years and 3 years of experience instead of 10 and 5.
I like that. Event, this is your world. Can you advise us if we were to build in an equivalency? What do you think would be fair? Like 10 years on hand, 12 years on hand, college education knocks off those years?
Well, let me,
Yeah, I don't know, but it would change the grade of the
right, that's what I was
position and
gonna say.
totally change
If you
our-
lower, just depending, if you lower the
You'll have to go
education,
back and redo it.
that's one of the factors that affects the grade. So I can make some revisions, and
Wait, sorry. Right now, I consider the education low. If we were to increase it, that's what would change the grade up? Is what you're
it
saying?
could. Well,
So,
and it's
what's
a
total requirements right now?
combination between experience and grade, I'm sorry.
What's total experience now, or what's the total requirement now for the job?
High school, 10 years and 5 years of management.
So would it change the grade if instead of, you kept the 10, or somebody with a degree or degree in engineering +5 or +3 substitute, so you still come out to a net 10? Does that change the grade?
I'm not for sure because I use DB compensation, which is like a software
Mhm.
that helps compute that. But I can make those changes and let the board see what it comes out to be.
Is the grade where you think it needs to be to recruit and retain people? Forgetting all the formulas and all the various things. In the real world of hiring, recruiting, and retaining someone, is the grade where it needs to be?
Yes. I think so, yes.
Okay.
Well, could we vote as a board to
Yeah.
give her the flexibility? I mean, we don't want to slow you down here. We just, I think, as Steve is saying, we just want to build in a college education as an equivalent, because I think, sorry, I wasn't able to read the whole description. What you're saying is that you could have a college education and then you have to have that experience on top of it?
Yes,
So
those are
that-
two different factors, yes.
Okay, but right now, the college education does not reduce the amount of,
It doesn't
No.
require it at all.
There's no college.
Yeah,
If you have college,
option.
there's still no.
It doesn't help
All it says
you.
right now is high school, 10 years of experience, or related experience, and 5 years of management.
see, I guess that's where I am, like, I'm pushing with Steve now, is like, if I was to come out of high school and then work my way up, that's definitely a track and that works great. But if someone was to then take the time to go educate themselves for 5 years, get an engineering degree, and then start working their way up, they're 5 years behind that person, and they may be more qualified in some areas, so
Well,
it's almost like a penalty.
Tell you what, let's, you know, if since this is where we are with the director of water, I mean, I don't, you know, I threw it out there.
I wasn't talking about what I was talking about exactly.
Okay, I understand. But what I'm saying is, that this is the same thing as for director of water too, so, I mean, I'd really like to adopt this pay change or position tonight.
Yeah.
And, I'll be honest with you, I think we go ahead and, there's a part of me that says, I really don't care what the software says. I mean, if we think this is gonna get us the people, then I think we change the education requirements and keep the same grade it's already at.
I wonder if the motion was to defer everything till we can get this other review, and for the director of electric to say that we're approving that one and basically retain the experience requirement, but direct you to include in there a substitution clause that if you have a degree in a related field, that would count year for year against the 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, is that would be?
If we're gonna do that, I would just go ahead and, I just am about to go ahead and approve it the way it is. I think we're getting down in the weeds on some of this.
Can we approve this now and
And
then
revise it
revise it
later,
later?
Yes.
But also, I personally think John nailed it. A perfect little sentence right behind it. I've seen that in job descriptions before, where they just give you credit for that college
I mean,
education.
state government, and by
Yeah.
no means do I want to say state government system is good. Believe me, it's.
Yeah.
But almost every state government job has a college requirement at certain levels, and/or a substitution clause going the other way.
Right.
You know, like it requires a degree, but 4 years
But
of
if you've
related
got more-
experience
if you've got more
substitutes.
experience, you can
That
substitute.
counts and replace that, or
Okay.
Yeah.
So Nichelle, a sentence like that, I think that may cover all our bases. Steve, does that make you feel a little bit better? Maybe not.
I'm okay with whatever we do. I mean, where I vote is irrelevant. My whole thing here, you all, is that I'm looking long-term at the organization, not just right now. And that long-term, it's gonna be a world, as you have talked about, it's an international world.
Yeah.
And you have to upgrade, if you will, if I can use that word in a respectful way, your entry-level qualifications to stay in the international world. And so So if we could keep perpetuating that you can just do this like this, then we will be just where we are right now. So every one of these positions in here, in any way that they can be upgraded, they should be upgraded. So I mean, this is not personal about people here right now. I'm thinking about the organization 15 years from now, perpetuating these same things what we're doing. So that's where my thought process is, not right now. So it doesn't matter really what we do right now, because.
I mean, but it is, I don't know how much of a trend, but I know that people are not doing college. And I personally would like to, in our little way, promote vocational track. I think it's not pushed enough. I think college, not for everyone, and not because they're not capable or anything else. It's just so. So I don't know. I would love to expand upon yours and do also an equivalent, swap out for experience if you have some relevant vocational training.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Steve, if you're okay with this.
No, it's not. I'm one vote here. I'm okay with
I know, but you're making good points, Steve. You're making great points.
But my points are again. It's not. I'm probably not going to change my point, so I'm okay with what the vote's going to be. My point is again, how you go forward with this organization. I mean, going from KU to KYMEA. I mean, the expertise and the knowledge, the talents that it takes to go from KU to KYMEA is a leap. And so what happens on the other if we have those types of leaps going forward, using the same practices that we do right now? I mean, I have no problem with people moving up the ladder inside the organization. But I've also seen budgets given that has showed a succession to jobs that's already been preordained, if you will. And that mindset is here. So I want to upgrade stuff. And if people here have that, then fine. More power to them. They're very talented people here. But you stay with the status quo of like that language for someone in a highly technical job, then you want to have,
Well, I see what's proposed as a compromise for now.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't have a problem with the compromise. Again, my vote is one vote, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with your votes. So I'm all right. It's just, that's my stance.
So do we have does someone want to offer a motion?
I don't want to offer a motion. John, you want to offer a motion?
Can I offer the motion and then not vote for it? I mean,
yeah, go for it.
Absolutely, go ahead.
What was the John?
No, I've actually got it written down, so I'll say, I'd like to amend the job description for the Director of Electric Operations to add an alternative educational requirement of a college degree plus 5 years of related experience and 3 years of management experience.
Okay.
And keep the same grade level at 122.
Well, but sorry, that was real close. But what about if they have a associate's degree? Can we say an equivalent years of college? Because five-year engineering would be different than a 4-year bachelor's. So, or if they have a master's degree, that's a whole other angle. So just say equivalent years of college.
Right. Okay.
Or completed. Okay.
Right.
Okay, if you don't get Steve, did we just talk that all on?
And then that's the motion.
I'm looking at Kathy's face because she's trying to figure out.
Sorry, John, you want to take another? John, you want to take another crack at that with me wordsmithing right there for you in real time?
Yeah. Let me think about this for a second.
Okay.
I'd like to put forth alternative educational requirement of a bachelor's degree in 5 years of experience, 3 years of management experience, or an associate's degree with 7 years of experience and 4 years of management experience.
Or a 5-year professional degree. No, we're good. I think we're good. Kathy, you got that?
Or 10 years, which is the current.
Or a PhD.
Keep what we've got already. You're on thin ice, Jason.
Sorry,
Thin
sorry.
ice.
So we're keeping what we have in here and adding.
Bachelor's degree,
5 years experience, 3 years management, or
associates, 7 years experience, 4 years
4
management.
years management.
Okay?
And then for the rest of the actions,
And then, and then, first of all, we need to amend that, make
okay.
sure.
You wanna do that one separate as
Yeah,
opposed?
let's go ahead and do that one first.
Okay, so we have a motion on the Director of Electric that John just outlined. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Steve? I second it.
Okay, we have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I'll pass.
Adopt, okay.
And I would also move that we table the remaining grade changes until a special meeting can be called to answer questions that have been raised by the board.
And to direct staff to secure
Yes,
a consultant,
yes,
a new
at
consultant,
least, yeah,
as soon as possible to conduct that review and report back.
yes.
You got that, Kathy?
I got it.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted.
All right.
You might as well stay.
Yeah.
Because this next
Okay.
one, the next one on your agenda, and first I want to commend both Cassie and April, because they did a ton of work on bringing this issue, and I think you all have seen their draft. And we have, 17 total positions in customer service. 2 of them are supervisors. We're down 4.
We're currently at 13, and I would consider 17 to 18 fully staffed. At one time, you look back in 15, we had 21. In the recent years, 21 was kind of our peak. We've tried to automate, just like everyone else in this world is doing. And payroll and benefits is a huge expense for the company. We've been doing our best to automate anything we possibly can to be able to get more efficient and do more work with less. So 17 would be considered. We're down to 4, so we have 4 CSR positions that we're short right now.
And we're trying to fill those. And what they have proposed is, given the staffing and what's going on, it's a model that we're seeing other places, is they basically like to close from 1:30 to 2:30.
1 to 2.
1 to 2 every day. That would accommodate people who lunch hour, whatever, come in to do business. There's other things in the works, like you said. We've got the new software design. David's working on a plan to install maybe a kiosk somewhere in the lobby. One of the things that was interesting, I got to spend about an hour with April and Cassie, is a large number of the people that go through our drive-through go through because they just want a receipt. They want to pay not only do they want to pay their bill in person, they want a hard copy receipt, which means they don't want to use the drop box. They want to actually go through the line, sit there and get a receipt. The kiosk would help some of that because it could print out a receipt for them. But basically what we're having is they just, in order to cover everything, cover lunch and cover the day, plus if anybody's off for sick leave, vacation, anything else, they're running out of hands. I mean, and I think we all don't want to make that adjustment in service, but at the same time, they can only do so much. And until we get, and they, from what they told me, it takes some time to train a new customer service person. And if they're training, that means the remaining 13 can't fully do their jobs because they're training new people, which means they're even more shorthanded. It's not a great option. It's not unusual in this day and time to see those adjustments in work schedules. At some point we could always revisit it if we get back fully staffed. But for right now, they spent in, April had graphics. I mean, she had little charts with things on it. I mean, she did a lot of work trying to lay out what they had looked at. And again, it goes down to 70 in the pool. They looked at 10, and maybe they were hoping to maybe get 2 or 3 out of that pool if possible.
We've got 7 interviews coming up on the 26th and 27th of this month. 6 external, 1 internal.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, they did a really good job of walking through it and coming up with options. They did a paper, they circulated. So basically what's in front of us is, do we want to approve that change in business hours, that people would come in you know, they could still use the portal, but a lot of people, it's just people coming in, they just want to talk to a human being, they want a receipt, and they just want to talk to someone. And, you know, we've got KU's closing their office, I mean, across the industry, not just in utilities, but unfortunately, face-to-face customer service is just being cut back everywhere, and that's not good, but and part of it is driven by you can't get the people. So, David, you want to add, or Michelle, I know you work with them and looked at the classification. Could we change that to help with, you know, recruiting more people? I mean, y'all add whatever you want and
Sure.
then open it for discussion.
So the proposal would be that over the next 4 weeks that we would be informing customers every time they come into our office, drive-through and phone let them know about this change. One of the things we're running into, we are short-staffed, and we also, of course, labor laws, you have breaks, and then rotating lunches is running from 11 o'clock to 2. So we're short-staffed. Between sick, vacation, any given time, you've got half the team out, and then when you start rotating, during our peak days, when people, I should say peak times of the day, when people are doing their business on lunch, we're short-staffed and just behind and not providing the service we would like. We think you've got 3 different parts: the in-office, the drive-through, and calls. So we're proposing, in our budget, we have money to fund a kiosk. I think one in the drive-through that would allow people to make 24-hour payments through the drive-through, and possibly one in our vestibule area when you first walk in. So those are in the budget, and we'll be coming with you on implementation of that. We think this would allow us to provide maximum human resources at the time our customers need support the most. And by not rotating lunches, you have all hands on deck for 8 of the 9 hours a day we're open. We think overflow calls to knock, and we are continuing to implement self-service options on our customer portal, the My FPB portal. We've moved forward with a new pay card processor that's going to allow us to pay at Walmart and other places across town with the Green Dot Network. Our phone system we're implementing is going to have more self-service options as well. So we're moving towards, I don't want to throw this out, we're moving towards the mentality of if we had to close our office, like KU's doing, we could do that. That we have enough automated and self-service options that we could go there. That's not our intent, but that's the plan, is being able to be in this modern world and minimize payroll and benefit costs. So we think if this were to be a complete bomb, then we can pull back and do something else. But doing nothing is going to result in less than favorable customer service
And I
results.
made the comment, you know, there's people that come through the drive-through and they just want a receipt, but there's also people that come in the office and they're wanting to switch their internet service, or they need a payment plan. And those take a lot of I mean, they're taking more time because people want the service explained to them and how it's going to work. And
Right.
I mean, it's some are 5-minute visits and some can be a 30-minute visit. I mean, you never know when they walk in.
Right. So we would like to tool back up. You do have a seasoned CSR that does have to sit and train. So whenever you're training, we are down, not full capacity for a while. I think the plan would be to go ahead and hire all 4, but we can only really hire about 2 at a time. Eventually get fully staffed. We do have a wave of Tier 1 customer service reps that will be retiring, so we need to get tooled back up for that as well. So if the board would allow, we'd like to try this and just see how it goes.
Well, I just want to make a point here. I'm a very calm person. I don't lose my temper very often. I would say 80% of the time I lose my temper is talking to automated systems that can't hear my accent. I'm saying yes 10 times and louder, and then I start adding expletives. I'm not proud of myself, but you know.
Please listen carefully as our menu options have changed. Yeah.
Or please pronounce who you'd like to talk to, CVS. You know, I found myself yelling at times at that phone. It just feels so dehumanizing to talk to a robot who can't hear what I'm saying, and I'm a human. So I just want to throw that out there. Is I'm a calm person, but I do lose my temper when I'm sitting there repeating myself repeatedly to a automated system, and it leaves me with a bad taste in my mouth. Whenever I finally get to a person, I'll say, "This is not a reflection on you, but please pass up the chain. I'm very unhappy with that you guys have become so automated." So I know the job market. I just made that whole big soliloquy about it, but if we can try to strike a balance, because I know as a human, I do not like talking to machines.
And we do have the callback option that if they call in,
Yeah.
and like say they call in when we're closed, like we were closed from 1 to 2, and they called in,
Sure.
then they will get in the queue and they will get a call back. They would not necessarily have to come right back in the office. They would get a.
I do love the callback features. When you call, leave a number, you go off with your day. You're not sitting on hold for 2 hours. I mean, that I really do enjoy that. As long as they call me back.
David actually mentioned once we off 1 to 2. Number one is before that one, right? If a customer already called in, we're not going to just drop them. We're going to answer all the call we can until we walk away. Number two is we do have a full-time knock, 2 people there. They can manage the majority of the call during the 1 to 2. They're part of it, they cannot. They definitely can leave the information for us, come back at 2 o'clock, then we can put them as a priority. One thing I do want to point out a little bit, I mean, if you give me like a 10 seconds, I'll explain to that. We take the customer service, when we mean that, really means a lot when the board tell us we can take care of one customer one time, all that, right? One part of it just we're looking at is call waiting time, average waiting time. You can watch it every time reported. All these 13 people or the 11, they are on that line, take care of that 9,000 interaction with the customer. It's not always like you have a call, then people are present to pick up a phone, then solve the problem. Not necessarily that's happen that way. Because if you have a customer, 20 of them decide to call us in the same time, suddenly the first 10 pick up, the rest 10 have to wait until the next available. But when you have a call center, when you have the volume before the next time call you accumulate 20 there, you suddenly waiting time can be 1 hour. But when we say we want to average 60 seconds, you see how much pressure we're going to put on our employee there. Because they have to quickly jump in, take care of all the customer. Not only we want an average waiting time, we want a 1-call resolution. We don't want the customer say, quickly answer, they move out. 5 minutes later, say, I have to call back again, and my problem didn't resolve. That's not something we want to do either. So that's all I'm saying. The reason we want to close 1 to 2 is because we don't want to, people choose to call us in lunch hour. We do have to give employee lunch hour too. Suddenly you talk about 1 hour waiting time. We want them to, when we say before 1, we have all the staff, have 100%, they can take care of that customer. Then they don't have to, we already have a spread. Then you cut from 11 to 12, you take a group have lunch. 12 to 1 have a lunch. 1 to 2, another group lunch. Sunday is particularly that 4 day, we have a disconnection, the beginning of the month, the cycle started. It's going to be very, very hard for them to manage. That's the main reason I want to go to. Really, we want to do is improve the service. It's not actually knock down that. I know it's hard to explain that, but that's the truth behind it. That's why we want to do that.
And I appreciate everything you're doing. I just want to give that direct feedback, the personal feedback, that I see a lot of people moving to, as you said, we could fully automate and walk away, and sadly, it's just we're not there. We're not. When the AI overlords take over and they're running everything, yeah.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm of the same mind as you, Jason, and I almost prefer the press 1 if you want this, press 2.
Yes.
When they start trying to figure out what my voice is and my answers to questions, it never goes well.
Well, and then when you hit the uncanny valley where they actually start talking to you and you think you're talking to a real person, and then you start to realize it's just a little unnerving.
The only thing I can say about this is, if you look at like Kroger Pharmacy, doctor's offices,
IRS, Social Security.
This is unfortunately becoming the way of the world. But like I said, I guess the question I have is, if NOC gets, these rollover calls will go to NOC during this 1 to 2. Can NOC put these people in the queue? Can NOC give these people the option to put their number in and be put into the queue if they have a service question that our CRS folks or CSR folks can deal with?
So today, we've trained we call it customer service light. So
Right.
they can do a lot of different, the NOC staff can do a lot of different things than they do today.
Okay.
The more detailed billing questions and a do complete service shift,
Right.
that would be It's 1:30, we'll have our staff back in 30 minutes and we'll give you a call back. The queue, they would roll over to being the NOC staff in the customer service queue. So we were going to try to use the NOC staff and see how that goes. Talking with supervisors Daring and William, we feel like we can do it. If it turns out that it's just more than we can handle, we'll pivot.
But the NOC staff can throw them in the queue and then
they don't lose their place.
folks will go through that.
Yes. If that doesn't turn, something else would be, can we keep a couple of service CSRs back? Not everyone goes to lunch, just to keep the phones under control.
Yeah.
If that's the fallback,
Right.
that's step 2 if the first one doesn't
See how
work.
this works.
We looked at the in-office traffic over the last 3 months. We have about 6 people that come in the office between 1 and 2, and that's where the education over the next month will come in. So I think if we can educate, and everyone understands the world that as consumer, I think we can have minimal disruption, and then so the 8 hours of the day we can be fully functional.
We need a motion.
Yeah, I think we need a motion to allow staff to implement the revised service schedule.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second? All those
Yes.
in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Adopted.
Thank you.
Next is item 4.11. Consider appointment of a new alternate director to KYMEA effective August 1st, 2023 to replace Vint Foster, who is retiring. The requirements are provided for in the FPB Board approved June 2015 interlocal cooperation agreement creating KYMEA. As y'all know, and Mr. Denton has had to serve in this capacity before. Basically, Gary's our lead person. With Vint retiring, we need someone else to basically back up Gary, to go to the meeting, so forth.
Yes.
Gary, you want to?
Yes, I want to talk a little more. Actually, as you know, all our meeting, actually, David Denton has all of them join the meeting since I come in. Every meeting they are. So they are fully in the loop. It's very important to us because it's so critical to us. But right now, I talked to Wanda quite a bit, see what's alternate number we would like to recommend to the board. Because I think Hans and David will continue to attend the meeting. So we are think about maybe recommend to you as Travis to be alternate. But I'm not saying they wouldn't do that. They will continue join with me for the meeting. And in this way, we have another layer extra prepare us for long term in the future.
And after
But
Travis,
that's just
and
our
after-
2
and
cents.
after
It's
Travis-
up to you. Yes.
After Travis throws the switch on community solar, he doesn't have anything to do, right? So your recommendation is that Travis would be
The alternative.
the alternate.
Today, if that's okay for you. But one part is, I do ask David and Hans will continue join
Yeah.
with me, attend the meeting.
But
Yes.
but when it comes to it in terms of actually voting for us, if you weren't there,
Yes.
only the alternate director can vote.
Correct. Definitely. Yes.
I have a motion that Travis is appointed. Travis, you want this?
Yeah.
Okay. We should ask him first. Okay, cool.
Ask him.
Okay, I make a motion that we put Travis in. He did such a good job putting all those panels on
Yeah.
in the evenings after work that,
With his little socket set.
yeah, socket set and carrying them up there.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Congratulations.
Yep.
Item 4.12, consider approval of change order number 2 for the ammonia and sulfuric acid upgrade project at the water treatment plant for $43,930, bid number 1740. Brand, Sharmista.
Yep, I'm still here. All right, so we're ready to wrap up the ammonia project at the water treatment plant. We had change order 1 in October 2022, and we just have, like I said, a few items left to wrap up the project. Adding a floor coating in the new ammonia room, sulfuric acid in the corrosion inhibitor rooms. They have a containment area for the day tanks. Those areas need to be recoated, and that room actually needs to be painted. And we have to do some additional heat trace. We have some exposed piping on the outside near where the new bulk storage tanks are for the LAS, and we need to add some additional heat tracing for that. So the total for those items comes to $43,930, which UC brings the new contract price to just under $776,000. We had budgeted $835,000 for this project last fiscal year, and we rolled over the funds, so we're still staying under our budgeted amount.
Any questions for Shamista?
Make a motion to approve change order number 2 for bid number 1740.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second?
Yep.
Steve? Jason?
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Thank you. Item number 413, in reviewing with Hans, we've determined this matter, given the nature of it, is for closed session. Correct, Hans?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Informational items. Nichelle, clarify adjustment to pay compensation plan. As you all remember, when we voted for the budget, we voted for everybody to receive a 5%. And basically, there was a technical change that I think Nichelle and Gary sent out, that basically we had to make an adjustment in the pay schedule because otherwise some people would not have received the 5%. So in order to run payroll, since the budget approved it, Nichelle ran payroll, but this is to come back and ratify that for the record, that we made that adjustment in the pay schedule for only the COLA.
Correct.
For those people, everybody to receive the 5%. Is that correct?
Correct.
And we don't have to take an action on this. It's just,
Clarification.
yeah, unless somebody want to move it off and take an action on it, it's just informational because we did
We
budget
put it
it.
in the budget.
Yes.
We put it in the budget and approved it. So
Yes.
we're good. Okay.
Any questions for Nichelle on, next one before we.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can we clarify one thing?
Sure.
I know this came up last year with with the GM raise. Is that
Yes.
effective July 1 as well?
Yes.
Just like everyone else?
Yes,
Okay.
correct, yes.
Very good.
Yes.
And then, Mr. Cubine, I do have another informational. if I
Okay,
can- Okay.
Yeah.
I had additional informational. It's concerning the meter reading positions in that area. It would be eliminated, those positions will be eliminated August 1st, and FPB has successfully deployed AMI meters. Deployment of these new technologies will bring benefits to our customers that we have been discussing over the years. Employees in the meter reading area that wanted to move were presented with other opportunities at FPB, since meter reading is no longer required with AMI. Those meter reading functions that remain have been absorbed by the electric and water department. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. One other informational item that's not in here, wanted to make sure you all probably saw it, is since we moved into this building, and I was on the board when we first moved in, we've had the drop box down at City Hall. And we're down to what, 2, 3, 4 payments a month? And the problem is the box is also co-shared with the city. So then we have to go down, empty the mailbox, and then there's our mail and the city's mail in there. And, it was kept there, and the board at the time took the action and encouraged and wanted that drop box kept down there because people were used to going down to the old admin building, paying their bills. But it's come to the point now that there's very little at all activity. Correct. And it is primarily the city's box for their account, for their bills, fees and so forth. So I think basically staff would like to close down our mailbox downtown and phase that out. We've got a drop box here and so
they can
forth.
pay downtown at Whitaker Bank if
Yes.
they would like. We're now down to that's the only bank accepting payments. So there is a downtown option for those that can't get up.
But staff does have to go down there, open that box in the parking lot, empty the mail, take our stuff out, deal with the city's mail, and which is awkward at least, if not more problem. I mean, we don't need to be. They don't need to fool with our mail. We don't need to fool with their mail. I mean, it's.
I assume if we still have a few little trickles coming through the city, we'll pass it on to us. Okay.
Well, and I assume.
I mean, we just need to put a sign up there that says no FPB payments.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
Well, there actually wouldn't even be a mailbox there, would there? Would the mailbox be there, or doesn't the city have a slot?
My memory, there's a single depository box in
Is
the
there?
back, and it's catching all right now. I think.
Okay.
So we could put informational items on there, and I think, they're probably, those people maybe need to walk, so we need to let them know that Whitaker Bank's their alternative.
I'll talk with Alicia Boyd.
Yeah.
The effective date is what?
I'll talk with Alicia Boyd, the finance director, and talk to her about whatever decision comes of this. If you all decide to shut it down, talk to her and work on signage and.
So what would
we
the
can-
effective date be?
It's
Approximately.
whatever you all would like to do.
Thir-
However much time you feel is necessary. 1 month.
September 1st.
I think
When's our next billing cycles come in?
around the first, September 1st would be fair to give everyone a one run-through on the.
Yeah. And like I said, from what Cassie and April said, what is like only 2 or 3 a month?
Correct. It's very low utilization today, and we have about 8 other ways to pay.
Yeah. And you all probably remember in the years ago, I mean, people used to line up around our offices down, at City Hall and go all the way around the block and across into the parking lot because there wasn't any place for anybody to sit. If customers came in and had to talk to a CSR, you had to pick up a chair in the aisle to let them walk through, then put the chair back down because of the cubicles. I mean, it was really, and people were backed out in the rain. I mean, it was a tough.
Right.
So
work on communication. I'll talk with the city. We'll work with on signage and give everybody a month to process and appreciate the consideration.
Next item is we've got 2 special recognitions. Gary, do you want to say something, or how do you want to? We got 2 special people here. So.
Yes, we have David Billing. David, how many years with us? 27? No, 20.
20 year.
20 year with Cranbourne. Yes, and when is 27?
Yeah, about 28 total in the system. I bought some time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's I've been fortunately been working both of them in the last 5 years. Is one of the most highest quality people I saw in my career, and not just them. There's many few retired too. We definitely lost a lot of institutional knowledge in the process. I do want to know I tried, but I can't against the system.
Well, and they've made. I mean, I think everybody agrees. They've made a huge contribution to this community, and in terms of service and quality and reliability, and you don't replace people like that with that kind of experience. I mean, it's. The board. I know we all wish you all well and good luck, and it's. It won't be the same, but it's. I know it's an opportunity to do some other things and.
And I assume both of you will be available for us to call you, just to check in if we have a question for the next few years. Yeah, okay, cool.
David, you all want to say anything?
Yeah, please.
Speech, David.
Yeah.
One last run at the podium.
Real quick, I want to thank both you guys. Coming on here, being on here now just 4 years, I had no idea, and I still barely feel like I've got an idea of half the stuff that's going on here. And you guys have been very patient with me, Van especially, very calm, and always looks at things from kind of a really unique perspective. And as far as from my friend Mr. Billings, I have been given the task on a lot of stuff to deal with a lot of water issues, and I have worked very closely with David and from Peaks Mill, the questions on Peaks Mill, and wholesale water stuff and different kinds of things, and just extraordinarily patient, a great teacher, and someone who's able to break down concepts, and even to where a non-engineering brain like mine can understand some of it. But I would have with the utmost respect for David and Vin both, but David especially. We've worked so closely together. I just want to publicly express how much I appreciate all he's done to help me in this job.
Ben, do you want to say anything? Or?
I think I could speak for David and I when I say that we couldn't have been successful here without all the folks that have obviously backed us up. I mean, we've kind of moved to positions where we may be a little more in the forefront than we used to be, but all the people underneath us, all those managers, all those folks out there working the day-to-day jobs, we couldn't do anything without them. So, I want to say thank you to all of them.
And you're always, Kathy, was it a week from Friday down at the Customer Service Center?
Is it
28.
28th.
28. If you have time, stop by. We'll be really happy for you to join us.
Thank you all for everything you've done. What time is 11?
Lunch-ish, 11:30.
11:30.
So it's not anytime you do stop by.
But thank you all for everything. So, Gary, do you have any comments?
No.
Okay. Let's see, John.
No business. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I request permission to call a closed session pursuant to KRS 16.810(1)C, discuss pending or proposed litigation regarding the collection matter and a breach of contract matter, and also pursuant to KRS 16.810(1)G, discuss specific proposals probably discussed, whichever side is the siding, retention, expansion, or upgrading of the business.
I need to add one more, please, Mr. Schneider. And 61.810(1)B.
1B.
1B, deliberations on the sale of real property is likely to affect the value of a specific piece of property to be sold by a public agency.
Do we need to roll that discussion of KYMEA in there too?
No, we, yes.
Is that
yes.
covered?
That's-
Okay, cool.
yeah. So we have a motion to go into closed session. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? For the closed session, we're going to be upstairs in the GM conference room, and it's Gary, we're coming out of closed. Do I have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of coming out of closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Mr. Snyder?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to proceed as directed in the closed session on items 1, 2, 3, and 4 as they were discussed in the closed session.
Okay, we have a motion on action to be taken. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're adjourned.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.